Welcome ladies and gents, Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter. Of course, you can subscribe to the channel. Let's talk boxing. Let's talk about Eddie Hearn's very controversial interview today with Matchroom Boxing. A lot of people might not pick up on just how contentious this was, in my opinion, because Eddie Hearn was very good at delivering some very serious statements in a very subtle way. And because he also made some typical Eddie Hearn sort of smart mouth comments, getting at Bob Arum and things like that, they're the comments that will stand out to a lot of people. But there was an undercurrent, an undertone, whereby he's insinuated some pretty powerful stuff here thrown at the doorstep of CHRIS EUBANK Sr. regarding the Eubank Ben fight. And I believe he's out there just trying to sprinkle seeds of doubt in the mind of CHRIS EUBANK Jr., you know, just like that salt bee dude, just dropping the sprinkles onto the steak. That's what he's trying to do with the seeds of doubt. We'll also talk about some comments he's made regarding the potential Fury and AJ fight. He's basically implied that the final draft of the contract has been sent to Team Fury, and all they need to do is sign the contract and they would have had a fight. But it's them that have actually given Matchroom Radio silence. They're the ones that don't want the fight. We'll talk about his timeline of events and discuss whether there's truth to what Eddie's saying or whether he's having the public on a little bit here. Let's start off with Eubank and Ben. He was asked about CHRIS EUBANK Sr. not being part of the build-up and the documentary, and why do you think that is? Obviously, CHRIS EUBANK Sr. has made the comment about this being a very dangerous fight for his son because of the weight training. I've done a video on this. I clarified my position to say that I felt it would have been very slimy of CHRIS EUBANK Sr. to bring up the death of his son and saying he wouldn't want to lose another son if he genuinely wasn't really concerned. Does Eddie Hearn here imply that he's not actually that concerned and that, you know, he's just trying to be controversial here? Check out this statement. Think about what it is that he's saying and the sort of attacks that he's putting on Senior to plant seeds of doubt in Junior's mind potentially. He said the problem with Senior is he's incredibly stubborn. Once he said his comments, he has to stand by them. He likes to be controversial, and maybe this was his way of being controversial. But I also don't think he's instilling a lot of confidence in his son. If he thinks it's going to be tough to make the weight, in other words, you should be there for him. No one made weight better or harder than Senior. He used to have to lose 8 pounds on the day of the fight with Nigel Benn, is what he went on to insinuate, and that his son is only coming in a couple of pounds below his typical weight class. Now I want you to think about what it is that Eddie Hearn's doing here. Think about the multifaceted implications of what he's saying. First and foremost, he's saying that Eubank Sr. is incredibly stubborn. That he made the comments, he probably doesn't even believe them, and maybe he's just trying to be controversial. And because he made those comments and he's so stubborn, he now has to stand behind them. And really, you should be there for your son. Now I want you to think about that. What he's ultimately saying here is that you are placing your best interests over the best interests of your son. You should be there for him like a dedicated father, but you're not. You're more concerned about your own ego, the way you come across to the public. Now, Eubank Jr. is not with Roy Jones Jr. training him for this fight. He is saying he's training himself. Now, as far as we know, Roy Jones is genuinely not involved, regardless of who's training him. The fact of the matter is, he was supposed to be there with his father for this particular fight. And yet, his dad is publicly saying that his son is in mortal danger. That's what he's saying. It's a very dangerous fight. I've lost one son. I don't want to lose another. You're not just in danger of losing, Chris. You're in danger of dying. And so when Eddie Hearn goes on to say, I don't think he's instilling confidence in his son, well, clearly not. I mean, God forbid anything like that was to happen. But this could just be a public persona. Behind the scenes, he might be saying, listen, we got this in the bag. I've got to put this out there to sell the fight. But like I said in the previous video, I don't think that's the case. You know, Eubank, I mean, it would have to be a very slimy thing to do after losing a son to use your son's death to promote a future fight. I can't see that being the case, especially because Eubank Sr., having really seriously hurt Michael Watson in the past, his KO ratio after that fell. That to me suggests he wasn't the same guy anymore in terms of his killer instinct. When CHRIS EUBANK Jr. was battering Nick Blackwell from pillar to post, Eubank Jr. actually told him, you're causing too much damage, target the body. You're going to seriously hurt this guy if you keep targeting the head. So it's something he's acutely aware of. So for him to be bringing this up, maybe he's genuinely concerned. Now if that's the case, and he really disapproves of this, and he can't see himself having any part of the fight because he's genuinely concerned about the safety of his son, Eddie Hearn is right in that he's not instilling confidence in his son, but he has to take a stand. But here's the thing. If that is the case, and Eubank Jr. is sitting there and pretending to be eating KFC, and he's eating burgers and all these things, is that a disrespectful act to his own father? Is it a method of reassuring his dad? Dad, relax. I'm eating all this junk food and I'm still going to make the weight. Is that what he's saying? Is it to plant seeds of doubt in Conor Benn? Don't think you getting me down to 157's affected me in any way. Or perhaps I'm not even going to come in at 157. I'm going to pay the fine. I'm going to come in at 160. And then what are you going to do? I'm going to use my size against you, Conor. I bet you were feeling confident thinking I'm coming in drained, right? I'm not coming in drained. I'm coming in at my natural weight. Tough. I'll pay the fine. Tough. You want to turn down the fight? Turn down the fight. I'll say you were afraid. Everyone will say you were afraid. Over what? Me coming in at 160, an extra 3 pounds? Maybe that's the route he wants to go down. But regardless, whatever the case might be, for Eddie Hearn to be questioning essentially the parental dedication of Eubank Sr. is in a way telling Junior, the man that you have decided to place your trust in is not there for you, Chris. He believes you're in real danger. And listen, he's done certain things in terms of making weight which genuinely were dangerous. What you're doing is not dangerous, but he clearly doesn't believe in you. He doesn't think you're the guy he was. Now, this could backfire because there was footage of Chris Eubank Jr. when he was a kid whereby his dad didn't want him to enter professional boxing. And you could see this high-pitched Chris Eubank Jr. before his voice had broken saying, why? I really want to go to the boxing gym. Why? Like, why aren't you letting me? I want to do this. And he's almost always sought to win his dad's approval, in my opinion. That's how it always came across to me, by proving he's got that warrior spirit. Because when you're born with that silver spoon in your mouth, so to speak, you don't need that life. And very few fighters have sons that go on to become world-class fighters themselves. It's very difficult, as Marvin Hagler once said, to run in the early hours of the morning in silk pajamas and stuff like that. Well, he's done that, Chris Eubank Jr. He's shown a warrior spirit. Regardless of whether he's matched the levels of his father or not yet, his career is still going, of course. He's shown that warrior spirit. Maybe this could backfire and he's going to want to prove his dad wrong all over again. Maybe he likes that. Maybe he thrives on the idea that his dad doubts whether he can do something. And maybe his dad knows about that. And maybe that's why his dad's making these comments. He's motivating his son in his own way. Or is there a seed there that Eddie Hearn is looking to water where Junior thinks, my dad's really not there for me. He's all about himself. And I haven't trained with Roy Jones, and I'm going into this alone, into a corridor I've never been down before in terms of weight. This could be a dark night for me. Let me know what you think and how you interpret all of that. Now, regarding the AJ Fury negotiations, based on what Eddie Hearn's implied here, it's Tyson Fury himself that has scuppered this fight. He was basically saying that him and George Warren were having really good advanced negotiations. The fight was ready to be made or very close to being made. He says that last Monday they sent off the contract back to Queensberry. So Queensberry sent them a contract. Matchroom would have analysed it, looked at the various points. There were some things that weren't on. For instance, he spoke about Queensberry wanting to have an arbitrator that was one of their partners. Things like that just doesn't work. So they sent back a final draft contract to say, this is our position, sign this and you have the fight. Queensberry have then looked at that contract that they've received and they've got some points of their own. So they send back the contract. This is how it works. This is natural. But as they've sent back the contract on Wednesday, Matchroom were given that deadline from Tyson Fury to say sign today or the fight's not happening. Well, that's not realistic. That's impossible, Eddie Hearn's saying, because the lawyers have to go through the contract and look at the various points. Then they have to respond. If they're not happy with what has been sent to them, they have to respond with amendments of their own. If they are happy, they can sign it. But Tyson Fury imposed this deadline. Since that date, they have not heard anything back from George Warren. So what Matchroom is saying, and this is the bit that I really want clarified, is Eddie Hearn saying that they were willing to go ahead without amendments to that final contract that was sent back, but they just needed time to analyze it? Or do they also have some points that need altering? I'm assuming it's the latter, because he goes on to say we're happy to continue the discussions. But on Friday, Derek Chisora received a contract for the Tyson Fury fight, as did other fighters. In other words, it's Fury that instigated this arbitrary deadline, this deadline from out of nowhere, and he's basically said no more negotiations, I'm fighting somebody else. If that is the case, do you understand Tyson Fury? Because he has to start getting prepared for a different fighter, and stylistically he has to consider another potential fighter. Or is it Tyson Fury looking for an easy touch? Is it Tyson Fury thinking, yeah, I'll go for Chisora, I'll go for Char, I'll just dangle the AJ fight there, but really I'm always looking to place this obstacle. Now, Eddie Hearn said that they weren't expected to meet the December 3rd deadline, when initially they knew that they were going to go for December the 17th. So when they called their bluff, that's obviously when panic mode essentially begun in the Fury camp, and he had to find other obstacles. That's the implication here. He goes on to say that Bob Arum criticizing him and saying he's the obstacle, he's the one delaying. He's saying 2 weeks ago, Bob Arum was the one saying there's no chance that this fight happens. And now there are no barriers, and yet it's all my fault. In other words, if there was no chance this fight was happening according to Bob Arum, why on earth would I have worked so hard to eradicate the obstacles that you yourself were accepting are no longer there? But now all of a sudden I'm the one delaying it and I'm the one blocking it. I eradicated the obstacles. I was part of those negotiations. But he says if you were to ask Bob Arum what day of the week it is right now, there's only 50% chance he'd get it right. And this is the problem sometimes with Eddie Hearn, because although these comments are funny and they make us laugh, it's going to get Bob's back up. Not that Eddie Hearn's necessarily the bad guy. We know that Bob Arum says controversial stuff all the time. He's the worst when it comes to stuff like that. So I'm not sitting here pretending that Eddie Hearn's the one instigating all of this, but it doesn't help the matter when it comes to negotiations. But he has been complimentary of George Warren. So hopefully if he can develop a better relationship with George than he's had with Frank or Bob, then maybe we can start to see more Matchroom and Queensberry sort of fights go on. But the point is, according to Eddie Hearn, as long as the amendments come back from Queensberry, or if they're happy, a signed contract comes back, the fight's ready to go. What do you think about this, ladies and gents? Who's at fault? Who do you believe regarding this? And don't just say, I don't believe Eddie Hearn, he didn't want the fight. I don't believe Tyson Fury, he doesn't want the fight. Explain why you take the side of either guy. If Eddie Hearn is telling the truth and the fight is ready to go now and it's not happened, do you think that it's because Fury is ducking the fight, or Fury is within his right now to say this has taken too long? You know, we're October the 3rd now, we're 2 months away from the fight, it's not long enough, it should have been signed beforehand. Maybe that's your position on this. Let me know what you think, ladies and gents, about all the things we've spoken about. Also, of course, the whole Eubank Ben saga. Is Senior's comments going to plant a seed of doubt in his own son's mind, and is Eddie Hearn watering those seeds, getting them to flourish? Or is it going to push on Junior even more, to want to prove his dad wrong, to win over his approval and say, you see, you didn't think I could do it, but even at 60% I was able to put a beating on this boy? Or perhaps you see it as just excuse making, planting the seeds for a potential rematch. Or is it a case of Chris Eubank Sr. is simply a narcissist? And again, I'm not saying I support that, but clearly there are some implications regarding this, and a lot of people out there do believe this. So let me know what your position is on all these things. In terms of the technical breakdown and prediction video for Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn, I'm hoping to bring that to you guys by Wednesday, Thursday at the absolute latest, but I'm really going to try and push it out on Wednesday. So thank you for your interest in that. If you want to know the method in which Conor Benn can go about this to try and maximize his chances of an upset, or if you want to know about how Chris Eubank Jr. can really scupper the upstart, check out that video and let me know your thoughts. In regards to this video, I thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to hit a stiff jab on the like button, a monstrous right cross on that subscribe button, and a sneaky little uppercut on that notifications button. Thanks for watching. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.